Hey guys, so as you know, the Bindi movie was announced yesterday on Christmas. By the way, I hope you guys had a great Christmas. Anyways, it was announced yesterday, and today we're gonna be talking about what I like if this movie's gonna be live action or animated. What I think it is gonna be, the rating and the animation style if it is animated, and the story of the movie that I think it's gonna happen. So first, let's start off with the animation style if this movie will be animated. So just from this image right here that they gave us, I feel like the animation will be something like this, if not exactly like this. I would be fine with the animation being like this, but if it ends up being something else, then well, yeah. But if this is animated, hopefully the animation is very good and they absolutely nail it with it. So, yeah. And if this movie ends up being live action, they're probably just gonna use like makeup for ink, in, like all over the set and on the Lost ones and Bortus and Bindi and all that. So yeah. And here's what I think the story will be. So it immediately did say this movie would be accurate to the games or true to the Bindi universe. But I feel like they might change the story a little bit, how Blumhouse did with the FNAF movie, because they have to make it work somehow. So here's what I want to see in the movie. I want to see there being flashbacks with Joey and Henry working together. Like, they have to do it. Like, if they don't do it, then that's gonna be a L, because how are you gonna have a Bindi movie and not show us flashbacks of Henry and Joey working together? Like, come on. Like, bro. So that's what I want to see. I also want to see, like, Henry quitting and Joey being all upset. So, yeah. And who knows, we might see, like, Henry developing Bindi or developing some of the cartoon characters. And who knows, maybe we'll finally get to see Wally, like, somebody play Wally. I really hope Wally does end up showing up in this movie. If you guys don't know who Wally is, he was the guy who would always say, "I'm out of here," in every Ink Machine chapter. So I really hope he does make a appearance in this movie. I really want him to. So, yeah. Um and here's another thing I want. It might cut to like 30 years, the same timeline the game takes place. And I want Henry to get a envelope and the email from Joey telling him to come back to the studio, which is most likely gonna happen. But how he's gonna end up in the ink world, like, I don't know, because they didn't really explain how he ended up in the ink world in the game. So hopefully they explain that in the movie. They have to. But somehow, someway, he's gonna end up in the ink world. Henry's probably gonna be all confused and shocked on how he's in this cartoon world. And we're probably gonna hear him calling for Joey and not finding him. And it's either gonna be like the game where he has to find parts to activate the ink machine, or it's gonna be a little different. But speaking of the ink machine, I'm curious to see how they're gonna do the ink machine. Like, I'm curious to see if they're just gonna use CGI for the ink machine, or if they're actually gonna build a real life ink machine. So yeah, I hope they do actually make an ink machine. But we're probably gonna see Henry powering the ink machine on, and then eventually coming across Bindi, and then, well, after that, I don't know what will happen. Like, who knows? But now let's talk about Sammy. So, yeah. I really hope we do get to see Sammy in this movie and they don't make us wait until the second movie. Because we don't even know if there's going to be a second movie. But hopefully there is. But I have a feeling they're going to make us wait until like another movie for Sammy since he's in the second chapter. And I really hope that's not the case. And if it isn't, then I really hope they do Sammy right. like they have him be crazy and all of that, how he is in the games, worshipping Bendy and all of that. And if he is in this movie, I'm curious to see how they're gonna do his death scene. If they're actually gonna show it, or if they're gonna like cut away. So yeah, but I really hope like he does appear in this movie, and we might see him as a human before he was turned into a lost one by the ink machine. So yeah. Um. So yeah, and and now let's talk about Joey. So the only time we might see Joey in this movie is when he's in flashbacks, but who knows, like they might reference Joey time to time after that scene, but he's probably not gonna have that much screen time, to be honest. So yeah. And now let's talk about Bendy. So I really hope they do make Bendy as scary as possible, because like he is the main character of the game after all. So they gotta make him like terrifying, and I really hope, like I want him to talk how he does in Dark Revival, but they're probably gonna go with the like routes of the first game and not have him talk, but who knows. So yeah. And I really hope they don't use CGI with Bendy. Like, I really hope they just, like, make a figure or a costume or something, and they make it look good. Like, if they use practical effects, hopefully they have Jim Henson's shop do it, so they can, like, make these figures look good and all of that. Because if they actually use practical effects, I don't want it to look shitty. So, yeah. And hopefully the set looks exactly how it does in the game, or is like pretty accurate to it or similar. So, yeah. And now let's talk about the Lost Ones. I'm not really sure what they would do with the Lost Ones, if they would handle them how they did in the game, or if they would just make them more aggressive or something like that. So, yeah, but I'm curious to see how Henry would react to all of this. And the Lost Ones would probably just stand around how they do in the games, but they would probably ask him for help or something like that. Like they would, I do feel like they will give the Lost Ones like more personality, like make it seem like realistic in this movie, and give them personality with like them like asking for help or something like that, or saying the ink demon's coming or something like that. So yeah. And now let's talk about Boris. So it's either that Henry is gonna meet Boris the same way he did in the game, or they're gonna change it up. So yeah. But Boris, they're probably just gonna have him standing there, not talking, being friendly, helping Henry out. Like in the movie, they're probably gonna have Boris help Henry out, unlike in the game. So yeah. But as we know, he does get kidnapped by demonic Alice. So yeah, but I do feel like Boris will just be helping Henry out, like in the factory and all of that. So yeah, and now let's talk about demonic Alice. So they're definitely gonna make her scary. I know that. Like, there's no way they don't make her scary. So yeah, like I do feel like they will like do her right, and I'm curious to see who will play the role of demonic Alice. So yeah, it has to be somebody who like fits her though. And I'm curious to see how they're gonna handle her like kidnapping Boris and then transforming him into a monster. So yeah. But Demonic Alice is probably gonna be like the game where you have to do tasks for her, or maybe Henry will just like ignore her or something like that. But for the elevator crashing, they're definitely gonna use CGI for that. Like there's no way they don't. So yeah. But we're definitely gonna see Boris get kidnapped in this movie. Unless it's just focused on the first game. Like on the first chapter. So, yeah. But I do feel like they might add a, like, torture scene with, like, demonic Alice torturing Boris. So, yeah. But who knows? It depends on what rating this movie is. But, and speaking of demonic Boris, let me talk about that. So, I'm, like, they're either gonna use CGI or have somebody be in a costume for that. And I think they will make him more aggressive than he was in the game and more harder to kill. And, well, yeah. And for demonic Alice is death scene, they're probably gonna, like, if this movie is rated R, then they're probably just gonna have, like, ink splatter everywhere. And, like it's blood. And have her just, like, collapse to the ground or something like that. Maybe split her in half. So, yeah. And now let's talk about good Alice. So it's probably going to be like the game where they hold Henry as a like prisoner for a while and then he escapes because Bendy was coming. And I do feel like Bendy is going to be coming there because like in the games it's because he saw Tom and he knows where they are. But I do feel like in the movie it will be like he's like coming there for Henry because he found out where Henry was somehow. And he's coming for Henry to kill him. So, yeah. And Tom will be like, no, just leave him here. The Ink Demon wants him, not us. So, yeah. I do feel like they will treat Tom how he was in the games, but probably like a little bit more tougher or something like that. Or maybe not even help Henry at all. So, yeah. And now let's talk about these slurp things or whatever they're called. So you remember those things that would like come out puddles with those little ink puddles, and you would hit them with an axe? They're probably like we're definitely gonna see those, no doubt. But how are they gonna handle them? I don't know. They're probably gonna handle them how they did in the game. So yeah. And now let's talk about the rating of the movie. So the Meatly did say this movie would be super scary. So I think this movie is most likely gonna be a PG-13 movie, but who knows? It could end up being rated R. If the Meatly wants it to be rated R, then it will be rated R because they will put content like that in there. So yeah, especially if the Meatly wants Bendy to be like horrifying and all of that. So yeah. And so yeah, but that's all for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And what do you guys think? Anyway, that's all. Bye.